Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hello, I'm Eric.
And I'm Kevin.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
We're back.
Hey, Eric.
Oh my God, it's good to be here.
Long time no see.
It has been a minute.
We're back with a brand new series. We're calling this our election day.
Election special.
Super spectacular.
That's right. Extravaganza.
Absolutely. You cannot see it, but we have the bunting and the balloons are ready to be dropped.
It's amazing. There's a throng of people just outside holding signs for this podcast.
Exactly.
They're voting for us.
So we were trying to figure out what movie we would do, and I watched this one a few months ago, and I was like, well, this has to be the election day one, because it's an action movie where there's an election playing out in the background. That's your hint.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I assume you probably read the name of the episode you're listening to. That's your other hint, right? We're here to talk about Timecop.
Timecop is the one, a classic Jean-Claude Van Damme action thriller that I had not seen in quite a while until we watched it for this one.
I definitely, I was amped to see this one in theaters when it was, brand new. I remember this was when I was first, I think, getting to go to theaters to see R-rated flicks. I was probably, 94?
94.
I was probably, 12 or about to turn 13. And, yeah, I was, this was a good year for action flicks.
It was.
We'll talk about it later, but, True Lies and Speed were the big summer movies.
Yeah.
Both are awesome.
Yeah.
True Lies we have done on the podcast. So definitely, if you're listening and you haven't heard that one, go back in the archive and find it, because it's pretty awesome. And Speed is one we should get to.
Oh, and definitely Speed 2 with Jason Patrick.
Speed 2 Cruise Control. He was not the same guy, right?
No,
he was not
Reeves,
supposed to be Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, no, he was a completely different individual.
Okay.
Who just happened to look exactly like Keanu Reeves.
They gave him the same haircut and all that.
Yeah.
So Sandra Bullock's the only common thread.
Yeah, and I think Jean DeBont, who was the director of photography on the first one, he actually directed the second.
He directed the first one too.
He did direct.
So he did both.
One.
Okay.
I think he directed the second one. Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe is the big bad guy. That's all I remember.
I don't remember that at all.
And there was a big boat crash in the end.
The big boat crash at the end was that was the trailer moment. Everybody saw that.
What year? That might have come out the same year as Jurassic Park 2, which also had a big boat crash. Yeah. I feel like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Just you get the same, or something with this very similar thing coming out one right on top of the other.
Yeah.
Whether it's Armageddon or that other asteroid flick.
Yeah.
Or, there was 2 volcano movies.
Deep Impact plus Armageddon, and then Volcano and
Dante's
Peak. Yeah, it happens all the time.
Even if you've never thought about it, because these movies came out, I think, the same within a month of each other.
Yeah.
Matrix Reloaded and Lord of the Rings 2 Towers have the exact same open, which is someone falling and fighting at the same time, and then you snap out of a dream.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I'm well, that's a coincidence.
Speaking of, this is related to this topic, but Matrix, a much, kind of overshadowed movie because of the Matrix, The 13th Floor. It's a similar style of movie, deals with virtual reality and worlds within worlds.
I feel like I've never heard of that.
Oh, it's so good. And it's interesting because the premise is basically a murder mystery set inside of a VR simulation.
Okay.
And then as this one guy kind of gets sucked in, everything changes and the world falls apart. And it's really a great sci-fi noir thriller in the vein of Neil Stephenson.
Sounds like a killer X-Files or Black Mirror or something episode
straight
as well.
Up, straight up. Yeah, no, it was really good, and it was completely overshadowed by The Matrix. And I love The Matrix, but it always kills me because so few people have seen this movie because it just came, people's oh, it's just The Matrix also ran. But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Okay. Well, if you're hearing this
Yeah.
and you want to check that out,
Definitely.
then go check that movie
definitely
out.
check it out.
And if this episode runs extra long, there's a good chance you'll never be hearing any of this. And we'll be keeping it moving.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
Timecop. But no, yeah, Timecop. It was Van Damme at his pinnacle of his career, the precipice of his career, because he was also about to drop way the fuck off.
Oh my god!
Right, right after this.
What a fall! Yeah.
We will talk about that later, so stick around for that. But yeah, it was directed by a dude named Peter Hyams, which this guy was like pretty prolific considering I have never heard of him before.
No, me neither.
But he directed Schwarzenegger in End of Days, which was a shitty Schwarzenegger movie.
It was a terrible movie.
He also directed Van Damme in Sudden Death, after this movie.
Yep.
But he directed The Relic. Do you remember The Relic?
No, I don't remember The Relic.
One of, if not the only movie to ever star Tom Sizemore.
Oh,
in the museum.
Yeah, I do remember
that
this
movie. Was fucking rad.
Oh wow, I didn't know he directed that.
I loved that movie. I think that one holds up though. I haven't seen it lately.
Yeah.
He directed The Presidio, which I've never seen. I think that was like a Sean Connery murder mystery in the Presidio.
Okay.
He directed 2010, the sequel to 2001.
Oh yeah, the year we made contact,
right? Which I've never seen.
With Roy Schreider, right?
So yeah, the dude from Jaws.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I assume that getting that gig was probably like a sought after directing role, like job to have to follow up 2001.
Yeah, and my memory, and again, I have not seen 2010 in maybe 30 years. I think I saw it when I was 13.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as good as 2001.
Oh, yeah. I assume it sucks, but I assume also there were a lot of directors that probably wanted that gig. You know,
just follow up on it. Yeah,
he directed one called Outland, which was like a space western starring Sean Connery. Like he was a sheriff, on some moon of Jupiter or Saturn, or some shit like that. Yeah, he just was like banging out movies. He's got a lengthy, he's been directing movies since the 60s and 70s, and.
We did 3 with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, there was the third one that I can't remember the name of that was like a direct-to-video release or whatever, like more recently in this century.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like, we are far enough into the 21st century where we can now say this century.
It was within the last 24 years, maybe within the last 10 even. It was when Van Damme was strictly a straight-to-video guy.
Yeah.
Also produced by a lot of people, but produced among them Sam Raimi.
His production company.
Yeah.
I
couldn't figure out why, what's the connection? How did he wind up on this other than it's like comics based?
I don't know that it actually had anything to do with him. I was doing a little bit of reading of it, and it happened to be his production company, but it was him and like 3 other producers, right? And so it's possible that one of his, his coworkers are the ones who picked this up, and his name just got to be on it because it's his production company.
Yeah.
But this production company produced 2 of Van Damme's movies in like within 2 years of each other.
Were they both like sci-fi-ish type
no,
things,
the other one was I think a standard Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh wait, I remember
movie.
it was either Hard Target or Nowhere to Run.
Yeah, shoot, I don't remember which one.
One of those others. Okay, yeah. Man, Van
Damme
Damme was cranking flicks out at this point.
He was hitting his stride only to fall.
He was putting out like 2 to 3 movies a year, and they were fair to bad movies. Like the good ones were okay. And the bad ones were pretty lousy. But he was cranking those shits out, man. Steady working.
Well, I mean, like one of my favorite of his bad ones was Double Impact.
Oh, yeah.
When he plays his own brother.
We got to do that one.
Oh, that was a classic.
It's also got Bolo Young as like one of the heavies. It's like nice to get the Bloodsport reunion.
Yep.
But it's like, it's like, why do we think this movie's also got the problem of there's 2 Van Dammes, and that's too many, arguably. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need 2 Van Dammes in one movie. That's more than enough.
It's more than enough. The screen can't contain his awesomeness.
But yeah, Van Damme was like if you couldn't get Bruce Willis or Stallone or Schwarzenegger, he was like that second tier of action guys at the time,
He was in the same vein as Steven Seagal.
Seagal and Dolph Lundgren and like those dudes, maybe Carl Weathers on a good day.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like that guy. And then, then they all got replaced by like Brad Pitt and Keanu Reeves and like more of like not a big muscle man.
Yeah.
Just like regular type of dudes.
Yeah. I mean, just the whole vibe of what people were looking for in action movies changed as the sort of 90s waned on, right?
Yeah.
And
it was like the steroid era, I feel like, was sort
Yeah.
of like it had its day had come and gone, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It is interesting how it's come back in a different form. I mean, like they still exist, like movies like John Wick and Nobody, and
Right.
they're just so out there.
It's like
but
the R-rated action movie. Yeah. And you get in like your Avenger, like your Thor type shit,
Yeah.
where you get an actor that really bulks up.
Yeah, but those movies are now like limited to the domain of superheroes, though.
Pretty much.
I mean, like,
because that's
these are-
such an unrealistic
exactly
physique to
Yeah.
have.
But I mean, I guess if you think about it, Timecop, I mean, it was based on a comic book, is kind of a superhero movie.
Yeah,
but
totally.
it's not as literal superhero as sort of the Marvel franchise is.
Yeah.
You know?
But no, it's like it's very comic booky and
Oh yeah.
sci-fi fantasy
Yeah.
realm, you know.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah, but it was based on a Dark Horse comic book series by the same
Mhm.
name by some dudes named Mike Richardson and Mark Verheiden.
Verheiden?
Yeah, why not?
That's how I'd say it.
Good times for these dudes because they also wrote The Mask,
Boom.
which was another Dark Horse comic. I didn't
Yeah,
realize that
yeah.
The Mask was a comic.
That
book.
one I did know was a comic. I didn't know it was by the same guys.
Same dudes,
though.
so they were like making some bank
Yeah,
in these years.
Yeah.
Those dudes, and written by Verheiden, and with the story by Verheiden and Richardson. Though I think the original comic series, as I understand it, was like a vastly different story. That the movie was a totally new story.
I believe that. Yeah.
The comic was more like just an episodic. Like Timecop had to go back to South Africa to somebody was like basically Elon Musking it, like running a diamond mine in South Africa and like apartheid South Africa, and they went back and tried to fix it, but it made it worse, and then they had to go back again and whatever. But yeah, that's my understanding of like. But it's such a rich premise. The idea of like a cop that can go back in time and stop crimes in the past. It's brilliant, right?
This is right around the era of Voyager and DS9, where the sort of the time police from the 31st century start showing up, and Star Trek for people who aren't Star Trek nerds.
Yeah. Well, wasn't what's his name? Bruce McGill was in that series playing a very similar character.
He played the same character in an episode of Star Trek Voyager,
but not literally. He was not Matusak.
He was literally he wasn't Matusak, but he was the head of a time enforcement commission, basically.
He got typecast.
It's called something different in Star Trek, but yeah, it was like when I was starting to do some research on it, I'm like, oh my God, he was in that episode. I'd completely forgotten.
Yeah. Cinematography also by Peter Hyams, for better or worse.
Yeah.
He was like, but apparently he was the DP on a lot of his own movies.
Okay.
And then I took a note down that was edited by this dude named Steven Kemper, only because he had edited some like random shit, but he did some Arnold flicks, End of Days and The Last Stand.
Okay.
The Last Stand was decent. The one with like Johnny Knoxville.
That was like the post-apocalypse one, or
no? It was they're in a small town and like
one.
they're under siege.
I was thinking End of Days or the sixth. No.
Probably End of Days.
End of Days. I think
End of Days was like
Days.
that. That was like the like religious sort of supernatural
That's
one.
the one. Yeah.
And then Sixth Day was like the cloning.
Was the clone one.
They were all bad. All those movies
though,
were so bad.
Yeah,
man.
that was a small town cop one. I remember that one. Yeah,
it was it was like a pulpy action, like shoot 'em up and just fine. But he did a bunch of John Woo movies also, including Wind Talkers, Mission Impossible 2, Face Off, and then he also was the editor on Sudden Death, another Peter Hyams and Van Damme team up. And he was the editor on one that I've mentioned to you before, I think, that we should talk about sometime, called Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Oh, okay.
Which is like Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's kid, Brandon Lee, and Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, that's a weird cast.
And it's like a 78-minute long movie, you know, but it's pretty fucking good.
All right.
Some really attractive woman in it as well. I can't remember who it was. I think someone before they blew up and became like a bigger star.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Van Damme playing the character of Max Walker. It had just like, this was one of 3 movies or 4 movies he had coming out like on any given year. You know, he was
it's just prolific.
Yeah. Ron Silver, your boy, Ron Silver, is playing Senator Aaron McComb. I'm not really familiar with his work.
He is, for whatever reason, I know him as sort of the quintessential bad guy. When I think of like sort of smarmy, behind the scenes manipulator villains, for whatever reason, his voice and his persona, that's what comes to mind. But I was looking into this. he actually very rarely plays villains.
Really?
But for whatever reason,
well, he's good at it.
He's great.
He was awesome in this.
And so I guess maybe it's because of the things that I've seen him in, where he was playing a villain. That's the stuff that stuck out for me.
It's hard to imagine like playing this part any better than he did.
Oh no, I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
He like nailed it. And rest in peace.
Yeah.
To him.
R.I.P. for sure.
He died of cancer in 2009.
Yeah.
So that sucks. We got Mia Sara playing Melissa Walker,
who I've not seen honestly outside of Ferris Bueller's Day Off and oh shoot, I forgot there's
Legend.
Legend. That's what I was looking for.
The weird Ridley Scott, Tom Cruise like fantasy story.
Yeah.
You said you think she's super cute. She never really did it for me, but
really okay.
But I think I'm in the minority. I feel like a lot of people just think she's so beautiful.
Get a little bit of boob action on this one too.
Yeah,
actually, so.
well, guess easy.
I'm jumping. I'm sorry. I'm just very excited about the boob action.
we got Gloria Reuben as Fielding.
Mm-hmm.
I mainly know her from ER. Which I was a major watcher.
I remembered her from Dark Skies. She had like a 9-episode arc in that.
Okay.
In that movie, another great show.
Was that like Alien Invasion?
Alien Invasion. It was on like TNT or something.
Right. TNT was trying to get big into like the original dramas.
Yeah, and it was. I really liked it actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I did try to watch it, but I might have even left it before she even came on.
Okay.
And then we got Bruce McGill, who we mentioned before, playing Matuzak.
Yep.
We just saw him fucking Bruce Willis's wife in The Last Boy Scout, didn't we? Steady working character actor, been in a million things, but I'll mention it again. He did play D-Day in Animal House.
That's right.
Which is
so
incredible. What a career.
What a career.
But, well, two things. Before we get into it, and before I forget to ask, what are you drinking over there?
I'm drinking, so Sam Adams does a very limited batch every year called their Winter Lager, which is a little spicy. It's a little nutty. It's kind of an amber. I don't really know what it would classify as, but I love it, and I look forward to it every year. So when I was coming over to start the recording, I saw it on the shelf, and I'm like, it's fate.
Would you call it a winter warmer?
It is. Yeah, it is a winter warmer. You do feel a little bit warmer after drinking it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good brew. I like it a lot, and it's only out this season, so if you see it in the stores, I recommend picking it up. Give a 6-pack a try and see what you think. Yeah,
I'm typically a fan of Sam Adams, like all the seasonal releases. Oktoberfest is one of my absolute.
Oh yeah,
favorites.
their Oktoberfest is good. Yeah.
Well, I'm sipping on Old Pepper single barrel rye.
Ooh,
it is. It's a little cold outside. I usually can drink rye when it's like colder weather. I can't drink it in the summertime.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
because it's extra spicy as well. It's like really gonna warm you up or whatever.
Would it work good in like a hot toddy or something like that?
Yeah, for sure. And it makes ryes typically make really good old fashions. Like maybe even better old fashions than bourbon.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Something about how it's the flavor of rye pairs with the syrup and the bitters and all that stuff. Yeah. The other thing was, what are your general thoughts on this flick before we like get to it?
Despite everything, I like it more than it has any right to be. Yeah. You know, I mean, like we when we were watching it, you pausing every 5 minutes, going, "No, wait a second." But if we weren't like doing this for this podcast, it's an eminently watchable movie
for sure.
It's very dated. It came out in 1994. Its views of the future are sometimes scarily dead on, which we will get to. But most of the time, technology-wise, they're just hysterically off base.
Yeah.
But it is, I think most people would agree, one of Van Damme's better movies.
For sure. That's how, I remember, as I mentioned, like 12-year-old me loved this movie.
Oh, yeah. I watched this movie a ton when I was a kid.
And I was like looking forward to it coming out. I was all in. I think me and my dad went to go see it. I think he dug it as well, even as a grown adult at the time, whatever. Mm-hmm. But we were talking before we started recording. I was like, the acting from Van Damme, everyone except Van Damme was pretty good in this. But Van Damme, is Van Damme. He's not much of an actor.
He's got one speed, and that's the speed he goes at.
Yeah, it's not particularly like the dialogue's not always great. The action set pieces aren't anything that stand out. Like there's not much action that you can like really remember from it. And the story's full of plot holes.
Oh yeah, but it's just like top.
It's still good though. There's something that's still a good movie. It's
just fun.
It's like all that being said, it's pretty good though. Yeah, and I don't understand why.
I think that there's some good ideas with it. The villain. I mean, I think Ron Silver is an amazing villain, and honestly, a movie can live or die on the
That's
villain.
true. If you don't have a good villain, like Die Hard is awesome, right?
Yes.
But without Alan Rickman playing Hans Gruber, it's not going to be the same.
No,
movie.
It's not the same thing. And I again, I go back to this. I thought Ron Silver was a great villain in this movie, and I like every time he was on screen. The stuff that he does is so silly. His lines of dialogue are perfectly delivered. I don't know. I think that has something to do with it.
No, for sure. I think especially, first of all, in action movies in general, sometimes the hero character is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to remember. I think it was Val Kilmer said about doing Batman Forever. He's like, the villains get to have all the fun, and Batman's just kind of a boring character.
I mean, I think Mark Hamill said similar things about Luke Skywalker versus Han Solo.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I think you're totally right. I think the villain can carry the movie, and the hero sometimes is like relegated to being, more or less like the straight man.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I also think it honestly is a fun movie to look at. I mean, the CG doesn't really hold up, but there are some pretty good effects. There's a great explosion. You know me, I love explosions.
Oh yeah, it does have an awesome one.
The production design is great. They go all over the time. Yeah. So there's costumes.
It clearly cost a lot of money.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was like beyond all of the other stuff, it is fun to look at while you're watching.
It's
right?
like technically it's a well-made movie, technically, right? Like you don't see those glaring continuity errors and things like that we've seen in some of these others.
Oh wow.
Yeah, dude, I dig it. So let's dig in, man.
All right. So we open with the Universal Pictures animation. This is 94, so it's got the new CG one.
It's like, but it looks like it was photographed. I don't know I don't know how they did it. It was definitely using computers, but I feel like they maybe photographed a real globe. It's my favorite Universal.
Oh yeah, no, that is still
animation.
That's the classic. So that's the one that I remember from Jurassic Park. And now you were saying it predates Jurassic Park.
I think it made its debut on Back to the Future Part 2 or Part 3.
And that's definitely reasonable.
It was like a big anniversary year for Universal. Because before that, it was like my other favorite, which is like the wood grain Universal and like stationary kind of. Yep. And I do not love the new one that's overly looks like Pixar-ish.
It's like crazy. It's just like, no, it's too much, man. Slow down. We don't need the J.J. Abrams lens flares. And
like they said in Jurassic Park. Well, we were so busy trying to figure out if we could. We didn't stop to think if we should. We don't need all this.
Anyway, so we go into the other production company credits, and then full black cast of characters intro, right? I mean, it's this thing that we don't see very often anymore.
It's like just gobbling up runtime.
Oh, yeah, just filling space. Yeah.
And I'm a fan of it, but you never see it just over black.
No.
Like,
there's
you're
always
giving
something
us
going on.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like what, I'm trying to think of one we talked about. There was Stargate, but it was like all these shots of the Stargate, and it's like, it's Stargate, at least visually entertaining.
And this year, I think The Beekeeper also like had a long intro with credits, but it was like all these flashes and a little bit of foreshadowing of what was about to happen and what the movie was going to be about. But that kind of like, nope, just text.
You're reading this on a shitty font.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Terrible font. It was definitely like, it was the shit that would have come like in the whatever Adobe Illustrator.
Oh yeah. Like whatever the default
preset
fonts.
Yeah. Like no, when it's the cheapest, so it's the shittiest direct-to-video looking font you got.
Oh, immediately. But so the credits end and we come up. It's pouring rain in the middle of like the woods with a dirt trail. Gainesville, Georgia, 1863.
It's our backyard.
It is our backyard. It's pretty close. The camera like pans down and we see a few Confederate soldiers leading some sort of a horse-drawn wagon, and the road is just muddy from the rain. And there's a lone dude in a cowboy hat and a fucking duster. Love me a duster in rain.
Absolutely.
And he's standing in the middle of the road, single-handedly blocking the way.
And his clothes, they seem like period appropriate.
Period appropriate.
But if you look more closely, the duster didn't seem like it was something from the 1800s.
It was like black leather.
And it was like all like textured.
Oh, really?
In a way that just seemed like if you were really looking closely, I think you'd be like, that doesn't seem like something they were rocking in the 1800s.
Okay,
so,
subtle details again.
Subtle.
Costumes and the production design in this movie were really, really good.
Absolutely.
So the Confederates stop and they're like, hey, dude, get out of the way. And this mystery man, he's like, well, he wants the wagon full of gold that he knows that they're taking to General Lee.
Why was he missing a tooth like that?
I don't know. What was that about? That was like, I
feel like it was probably just like another misdirect, like to make us think that this is, people in the 1800s were missing teeth.
Exactly.
Like, surely he's not from the future.
Maybe he like told the costume designer, hey, I got those false teeth, and the costume designer, or the makeup artist, not the costume designer, the makeup designer was just like,
oh yeah,
well, take it out. That's a great look. Let's
absolutely, that was a real missing tooth.
Oh, it absolutely was. Yeah. So they're like, ha 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 ha. what gold are you talking about? But it's like, dude, get out of the way. We want you to leave. And he's like, they say, who are you? And he goes, I'm a friend of the Confederacy.
Okay.
Which I seriously doubt, given about what's about to happen. But the soldiers say that, like, if you're a friend, then you need to get out of the way. But the stranger still refuses. And then the Confederates are like, we're going to kill you if you don't get out of the way. The stranger's undeterred. And he goes, I'm going to give you one more chance to hand over the gold peacefully. They go for their guns. And then this is when the bad guy does the classic tossing the duster open from both sides. And from within, he produces two weird-looking machine guns with laser sights.
They're dope-ass guns.
Dude, and this is like they sound like the movie silencers on them. And he just mows down all the Confederates, and they're done.
It was an awesome open.
It was a great opening sequence.
I remember this. Oh, the open was like all over the trailer, as I recall, to the movie. I remember that line about, you got a shipment of gold, you're taking to General Lee, or whatever. It sets a high bar for what is a great premise for an action movie.
Agreed.
Right?
I mean, like you go to a movie called Timecop, it's going to be about time travel, but then you open in the 1800s, Civil War backdrop, sci-fi machine guns. I mean, the opening scene has everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it really sets the stage for what this movie's about.
It's nice.
Yeah.
And we were talking before we pressed record, like, dude, if you had 100 guys with guns like this, they probably could have changed the outcome of the Civil War. You know what I mean?
Which gets into the larger problem of the concept of this movie in general, but we're going to just we'll weave that in as we move through this. So we cut to Washington, D.C. in 1994.
Yep.
And we see that we're heading to a Senate Oversight Committee on Covert Operations, and it's on Capitol Hill. So we know it's serious. There's one government stooge, and he's leading who we will figure out is Matuzak in the very near future into a very, very ornate room with a desk that is not big enough for this room, with senators crowded around it, including Ron Silver's character, Aaron McComb.
Yeah, that was Bruce McGill as a Matusak as well.
Yes.
Last scene, like with his dick and Bruce Willis's wife in The Last Boy Scout.
So we're just continuing. It's
awesome,
a continuation.
I loved seeing the familiar faces pop up.
I think we're going to change this podcast to 6 Degrees of Bruce McGill.
Oh, yes. That's next.
Anyway, so they sit at the table, and there's a government guy at the table, and he says that they're here to talk about a super urgent, top secret matter, right? And so all the senators at the table are going,
Isn't it like sloppy that they never really say who this guy is?
Does he have a name? I
don't even know if his character had a name.
Yeah, just tall dude in glasses.
He just seems like he says something about, he implies he's from the White House.
Right.
Or something. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
I think he's like supposed to be some sort of like a national security advisor.
I'm imagine so. Maybe he's like the director of the CIA or something.
The actor had a great voice, though.
Oh, yeah, it was a great voice. Yeah. So the guy said that there's a former government scientist who spent the last 20 years working on time travel. And then all the senators around the table, they laugh. How silly.
And the one, the weird like leader senator is like this sleazy sort of southern Lindsey Graham-ish guy who's like, well, beam me up, Scotty.
Yeah, that's right. And for any Twin Peaks fans out there, that's Wyndham Earle, who he was the main villain. And after we learn who Laura Palmer's killer was, he becomes the main villain in the second
90s
half.
were like his heyday.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Early half of the 90s.
Alas, very divisive for fans of Twin Peaks. I really love Wyndham Earle.
Well, they got away from Laura Palmer in a big way, right?
Yeah, which David Lynch and Mark Frost never wanted to do. Like, they know, whatever. So, this is a whole other podcast.
That's another podcast.
So, all the senators laugh. The White House staffer says that what's even funnier is that the scientists succeeded. Oh, shit. Everybody at the table stops laughing. Mm-hmm. So, this is a great moment. Mr. Whitehouse goes, I could show you all the science, but you won't understand any of it, so I'll just skip it. And the audience are going, okay, cool, thanks for that.
That shit was funny. It is like, just accept that time travel exists. You don't need to. You're not going to understand it, even if it was like scientifically accurate.
Wormholes and 3D graphs. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, right.
So he says that there's no traveling into the future, only backwards in the past, because the future hasn't been written. Now, we paused the movie at this point.
Yes.
We needed to have a conversation about this because even in the past, it's someone's future.
I feel like this is like a common theme in these movies that you can't go in the future.
Right.
But it's like, but how do you know you're actually like in the first iteration of something happening?
Now, you made a good point, and I was totally on board with it.
This is how I have to tell myself in order to just make peace with the movie.
Please relay what you told me, because I thought that was very compelling, and I was like on board with it.
I think you can only, from wherever you are, whatever year or day you're on, you can only travel backwards from that day. Because the future is still in flux and the past has already happened, I guess.
For you and everybody in this present moment.
Right. So there could be other people coming back from further down the road, but you could never go into the future.
Because you haven't experienced that yet, and your future is still in flux.
Maybe, right?
Sure.
And I think you can only travel backwards and then return to that same time that you left from.
Which, great. I was like, that's enough for me. I love it.
Yeah.
I wish there was that single line of dialogue in the movie, but I am 100% on board with your proposal.
I also want to mention that dude who was like explaining the shit made the analogy about like time travel being like throwing rocks in a lake or whatever, and it causes these ripples in time. Because that's like the visual motif that they really leaned into with like every sort of time jump would have this ripple effect.
Yep. And he does.
I'm into that. I thought that was cool. It's a motif, right? Like it shows someone's actually trying to put some care into the movie,
Yeah, creating a visual theme is always a good idea. But to that point, he says that like as people change the past, it can have catastrophic effects on the present. And based on that, he says that the government has to form a brand new agency to police time crimes, also known as the Time Enforcement Commission, TEC.
Yeah.
Which is an acronym we'll see a lot.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so finally, he points to Matuzak and he said, this guy is DCPD and he's been chosen to run the TEC, which I thought was interesting at first because, like, why would you bring a local, like, just precinct cop and then elevate him to this very, very, very high status? But when we get farther in the movie, you'll realize, they basically just run this place like a precinct of the DC Police Department.
Yes, you're right. It does seem like it would be like an FBI director or like a director of the CIA or something, like someone from the intelligence world.
Right, exactly. But
it is just sort of like he's just here to delegate and marshal his forces.
Yeah, exactly. So the senator goes, how much is this going to cost? And government guy goes, a lot. And then he goes, how much is a lot? And then this is a great line. I love this.
Yes.
More than a little and less than too much.
That is an amazing line.
That's
one of the best written things in this movie, I think. More than a little and less than too much is nice.
I agree. The implications of that line is really good.
Yeah. It's so vague.
So all the senators around the table are very reluctant to agree to this. And then the White House guy goes, imagine a world in which there's an adversary that goes back in time and they're the first to invent the airplane or the car or the nuclear bomb.
Right.
And then he says, look, there might have even, but then he goes like, the nuclear bomb, that got your attention, huh? And I'm like, I feel like they already had your attention, but
I would hope so.
Yeah. So he says that there's already been they think that there's already been an incident. The CIA broke up a terrorist network that was financing all of their money with Confederate gold.
Right, which is, I guess, what we saw in the open.
Which is what we saw in the opening. And he points out that...
but so bad people already have this technology?
So, and this is the thing that drove me crazy a little bit, is that he's talking about their Nazi scientist who invented time travel.
Yeah, he did. He did seem to be a Nazi, didn't he?
It did strongly imply that their scientist was a Nazi, but okay. But then, so they weren't first to the punch. Terrorists invented it first, or quote-unquote terrorists. And so it's
weird. It doesn't really, it seems to contradict itself.
Right, it does contradict itself a bit. And then if terrorists were doing it, why go back in time to the United States to get Confederate gold? Like, I mean, what's your play there? What is the logic?
Just a million ways. I was wondering if it could have also been American bad guys who got the gold, and I mean, it could be domestic terrorists. We don't really know.
That's true.
I
They
guess.
just say "quote unquote" terrorist.
Yeah,
which is always a boogeyman word. So.
I don't know. It seemed to me when I was watching that the best thing you could do at this point, where time travel is like brand new, is just go back a short little while and kill this scientist before he invented time travel.
Done. Right.
I don't know. And then I'm like, I don't know if that would be a suicide mission for the person who went back to do it, because does that mean there's no way for them to come back, or would they
Well, as we've learned from
Like
Stargate,
vanish? I don't
there's
know.
always some military person who's lost his son under it. So,
Yeah, who's willing to do this? A burned out soldier.
Exactly right. There's always a burned out soldier.
That's what we're gonna get from Van Damme's character.
We will get there. Yeah. So
you would do it.
So White House guy says that time travel is very easy. It's a very easy way to make a lot of money. And this gets the attention of Mr. McComb or Senator McComb at this point.
They're not even trying to hide the fact that McComb's your bad guy.
No. Just like right out of the gate. Like, oh, there's our villain.
Yeah.
The senior senator says that the whole scene sounds like bullshit, but they'll fund the TEC as long as they have an exclusive jurisdiction over it.
Uh-huh. He busts out a big old pipe.
Dude, I loved it. I loved that pipe. That was great. That's right. So
are there people who still smoke pipe?
I do.
Like pipe tobacco?
I smoke a pipe.
Tobacco or other things?
Oh, I smoke tobacco.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. I have a real pipe.
Okay.
This is a whole other podcast. I could go into the reasons why
I learned something new about you tonight.
Nice. Yeah. No, I actually got to fix my pipe. It broke, so I haven't smoked recently. But anyway, that's a whole other podcast. So he asks who wants to oversee the TEC, and McComb volunteers almost immediately, right? The chance for dollar bills. Like you could practically see the cartoon slot machine rolling in his eyes and dollar bills come up.
It seems like letting the guy who's super eager to do it and have control seems like a bad idea.
Bad idea.
Right?
And the lead senator does. He makes this bizarre comment about, it's like, oh, you're...
About McComb,
yeah, about McComb being very ambitious. Or like, okay, we get it. He's the bad guy.
He's like, oh, you'll like him. He's very much like you, except his dorsal fin's a bit bigger.
Oh, that's right. The dorsal fin's a bit bigger.
What the fuck? Is he talking about like his dick? You said you think he means like he's even a bigger shark?
Bigger shark. That's
sure.
the way I read it.
We'll go with that because I thought there was just something very like homoerotic about it. Like I have no clue.
Maybe. So now we do another cut to, and we were just going all over random spots right now. By the way, again, going back to that production design, that massive room where all those, that was like a
cool
great set.
Yeah.
So in one of the few places that wasn't shot in Canada, we cut to a shopping mall. This was in LA, apparently. Most of the movie was shot up in Canada. This mall was an LA mall, apparently.
Okay. It's it's like a pretty big production to shut down this mall because it's a huge space.
There's so many extras everywhere. I mean, I feel like there was more money actually put into the production of the movie than paying the cast.
Yeah.
In a rare moment these days.
It was just the ubiquitous like 1990s shopping mall.
Oh yeah, just the most generic mall that you could possibly imagine.
But to our younger listeners, like that, the mall used to be the place to just go hang out, wander around.
Yeah, do a little underage drinking, and
of course, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. So Melissa shows up. Melissa is Miyasara, cutie that she is. She is still cutie in this movie, in my opinion. She walks out of a drugstore with a bottle of pills, and she starts, looking at a clock shop, appropriately enough, doing a little window shopping.
Imagine a world in which you need a clock, so you go to the clock store.
I don't remember the title of it, but what's playing over the PA system is a song by Chicago talking about a man who feels like he's out of place in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
Really leaning into this.
This whole opening bit, they really lay it on heavy. The whole time travel foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah. So it's a close up, a reverse on her face, very close up.
Yeah.
And a figure walks in from behind her, and we will soon figure out within 2 lines of dialogue that this is Jean-Claude Van Damme playing Walker. He approaches her from behind.
He's just horny as hell.
Horny as hell. Is like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm waiting for my husband. And she's like, if my husband isn't behind me when I turn around, I'm going to scream. I don't remember the exact line of dialogue. And of course, it's him. They kiss. Everybody's happy.
Making out in the mall.
Oh, yeah. These two have a very healthy relationship. Props to them for keeping the passion alive.
Oh, yeah.
We will come back to this multiple times in this movie. Melissa wants to know how the interview with Matuzak went, and if he's going to accept the job offer. So has
some time passed?
I don't know how much time has passed. As we get deeper into the movie, it becomes even muddier. When things are happening.
If there's no way they just literally just approved the creation of the TEC and they're already interviewing time cops or whatever like that. But yeah, the government wheels do not turn fast.
No, they do not. And the idea that it's it's still 1994 because we come back.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's the same year at the very least.
I would have thought, the more I thought about it, I'm like, it has to be weeks or months after the scene we just saw, which doesn't necessarily contradict until like the third act somewhere,
and then it's like,
or the second act.
Now this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we'll get back to that though.
But anyway, so before he answers, he spots the most quintessentially 90s thief you can imagine. He's wearing like thin, small, circular sunglasses.
Yeah.
It's
a white dude with like do-rag.
A white dude with a do-rag, and his clothes are so baggy.
You're burying the lead.
Oh my
God. He's on rollerblades.
He's like, thank you. You spoiled it. I was getting to the rollerblades. I wanted to pay it off.
Well, I wanted for this to be Philip Seymour Hoffman because he kind of looks like his doppelganger.
Yeah.
It would have just been amazing if this was like his first movie role.
That would have been awesome. So Walker senses something's about to happen, and he runs up to the guy. But the way they shoot this is so hilarious because the guy steals the purse, and he's getting away, but he's looking back as he's skating for way longer than he should. And then he immediately, I don't know how he does this, stops immediately on his rollerblades.
He really did
with
that.
A boot inches from his face.
It was a high kick.
A high kick from JCVD. And
this is like the product placement portion of the movie.
Straight up.
They're right in front of like 1994 Nissan.
Oh my God. New model. Right.
Yeah,
right.
And the boots. He's like, read between the lines. And they said, Wolverine boots? Because it said on the sole or whatever. And he's like, no.
Yeah. So he stops the guy. The guy gives back the purse to the old lady. And the cops just escort this kid out of the mall.
He just
like,
willingly is
everything's
going along
forgiven.
with the mall cop or whatever.
It's sort of like kids will be kids. You know how it is. There's no repercussions for this guy.
Except that this guy was definitely like 30, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
he was older than Van Damme. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, easily. So out of the corner of his eye, JCVD turns around and he sees like the two most future thug-looking future thugs that have ever future thugged in a mall in 1994.
Yes.
And
nothing suspicious.
Nothing suspicious about these future thugs. And he proceeds to like walk back to his wife, but then like he turns back one more time and they're gone.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. So he gets back to Melissa and she says like, look, are you going to take the TEC job?
See, she already knows it's the TEC.
Exactly.
And I'm like, does she not know what it stands for though?
So
like, I don't. There's so they could have just we didn't need the chatter about the TEC because it doesn't have any relevance.
Well, I mean, I guess we don't know that she
other than he's
knows,
being recruited,
right?
But it's for us. It's not for her.
It's for us. It's totally dialogue for us.
She doesn't know what. She doesn't know it's anything to do with time travel or anything, right?
Right. Exactly.
There's no way they would just tell people.
No.
Like, by the way, there's time travel.
Yeah, in the New York Times, there's like an advertisement in the classified because it's 1994.
Yes.
Timecop.
Right. Absolutely.
So he says he is going to take it. At least he thinks he will. But she wants assurances that it's not going to be too dangerous.
He says, I don't bake cookies for a living. Weird line.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. While they're walking, she makes that weird comment about his French accent, which I love. I thought that was like weird, like acknowledgement that has a very thick accent, but no one bats an eye about this, him being in the United States.
Like every guy named Max Walker.
Right,
exactly. With the heavy accent.
Yeah. And so Melissa says, are you going to have to travel for work? And he goes, not the way you think. And like, we get it because we know it's about to happen.
He already knows that it's top secret
he knows that
time travel shit.
Yeah.
That's not a secret that could be kept.
No, it is not.
Like if you interviewed 3 people for the job, that secret would already be everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Instantly.
1 out of 3 people would not be able to hold that secret.
I mean, Nintendo is like playtesting a new game right now, and they asked people not to talk about it within seconds of people downloading the game. It was all over the internet.
Of course.
No one keeps secrets when it's something as cool as time travel.
Right. Yes.
So anyway, out of nowhere, this guy with a giant macaw shows up. Why he had the bird on his shoulder, I don't know. And he says, pictures bring back your memory, and then like cons him out of way more money than they should have given this guy.
This dude spoke with an accent that I will not imitate.
No.
Because I think it might be a hate crime. If I did, I'm like, and what the fuck was up with the bird? Like, why did this man have a giant bird on his shoulder?
It was so weird. Do they even let birds in malls?
Like, it would normally be like, you might be like, take a picture with the bird.
Yeah.
Right? But he didn't even attempt that.
No.
It's just like, pictures bring back your memories. Okay.
It's so weird.
That's a weird phrase, too. And it's also just like, right, we got it. It's time travel shit. It's going to be a time travel story. We got it.
So Melissa says, and this is a bit of foreshadowing.
Of course. They're leaning in
one day you'll
hard.
be happy that he has this photo. And Walker goes, why? And she goes, I can see into the future, which is a very coy thing for an Act 3 turn.
Yeah.
So Walker asks what she sees in the futures, and she can see that it's about to rain, and they both have the afternoon off, and that they are going to go home and fuck the night away.
Yes, please.
Oh, my God.
Nothing better than like a little just lazy afternoon, like rainy day afternoon.
I mean, a little bit of afternoon delight. Why not? So sure as shit, cut to, they're in bed, and it's the most gratuitous of gratuitous sex scenes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no dialogue. It doesn't advance the story. It's just 3 minutes of Jean-Claude Van Damme's ass and Mia Sara's tits. Like, that's it.
There was that like porno music needle drop. And then graphic nudity that was very unexpected. And you could like see like up Van Damme's ass crack. And Mia Sara going full nudity.
Full nude. Yeah.
Hey.
Full nude. Yeah. So gratuitous sex scene has ended. The thunderstorm is still continuing later into the night.
She fucked his ass right to sleep.
Dude, I mean, he was gone.
Out.
He was comfortable. She wakes him up and says that she's got something important to tell him. Of course, because this is a movie. That's the point at which the phone rings.
Yep.
And they both know that it's work related, right? Like it's just, we know it.
Do we think, is it supposed to be so late at night it could only be like his job?
That's the way I took it. That is the way I took it.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure.
Melissa begs him not to answer, but he says like, I have to, it's what I do.
The lighting was weird. You couldn't even see Van Damme's face.
No,
like it was
so
pitch
harsh.
black.
Right. It's like it's just like, there's the rule of threes. You have the background light, you have the foreground light, and the fill light.
Yeah, the fill light.
And it feels like they just forgot to fill light. Yeah.
That's what happens when you like have your director being his own DP, I think. It's like, dude, no, you gotta like is all
right.
This all needs a lot of attention.
These kind of hard contrasts work really well in black and white in comic books, but this is not either of those.
And it's probably more real life style lighting.
Right.
But again, this is a movie.
It's a movie. Yeah. So whatever, we don't hear what's on the phone call, but he's clearly needed immediately for some sort of police business. And she's, Melissa's very upset about this, but whatever, it's the life. And we cut to Walker's putting on his uniform, getting ready to leave. And he says, look, he's sorry, but someone called in sick and I have no choice. I don't think that's how it works.
No, that's bullshit.
It's total bullshit.
You could say, I can't do it.
Right.
Like, if it's your day off.
Yeah.
If it's one thing if you're on call or some shit, which maybe he's on call. I don't know how police shit works.
I don't know.
But like, what if he's drunk? Like, it's his night off. He could be he could be at home, like
absolutely
drink a bottle of wine. No,
absolutely.
I can't come and bust heads tonight or whatever the fuck.
Exactly. And I totally agree. So, but she reiterates, yeah, of course you have a choice, because apparently she understands how police scheduling work better than he does. But she says, like, the things are different now. He rightly goes, what the fuck are you talking about? And she says, like, oh my God, isn't how I wanted to tell you.
Which can literally, there's only one thing.
There's literally only one.
And he doesn't get it.
I mean, it could be two things. She's got cancer and she's got 6 weeks to live, or she's pregnant. I mean,
right.
Like,
it's either she's pregnant or there's really bad news, like I want a divorce.
Yeah.
Or I've got 2 weeks to live.
Right. So before she can say the very obvious thing, he says, "Can you wait until I get back?"
Well, can it wait? That's a shitty move.
I know. She's like, I guess.
He's like the proverbial movie cop.
Oh my God.
Right? He lives to serve and protect.
Right. Exactly.
That's his first love.
But the second he asks her to delay, at least one of them is about to die.
Oh, facts.
And since Jean-Claude is the star, it's not going to be him. So
you don't get many movies about the grieving widow of the hero cop.
That would be an interesting turn, right? That would have been a weird one. But so Walker, he rushes out the door, and the second he walks through the door, again, we'll mirror this later in the movie, which I'm just realizing actually as we're saying this. He's immediately clubbed in the head by an attacker. I guess other gooms have started coming in because she's immediately at the door screaming.
Right, and then
another goon grabs her. Yeah, and so they drag her upstairs. Now, out in the rain, there's like a ton of goons all over him, including the future goons from earlier in the mall.
Guys,
yeah, the mall future goons.
Those guys look like stunt doubles for the Chili Peppers or something, didn't they?
I think they're too tall and like bulky, but
they're like Anthony Kiedis in different stages of his evolution or something. You know what I mean?
All the stages
like
of his evolution.
They had the
at the
Point
same
Break
time.
haircut. You know, kind of like it was just
oh my God.
bizarre. Yeah,
So weird.
They're like 90s punks.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to be.
90s punks trying to look like they're from the future, basically.
So they kick him around on the ground. There's a guy in their upstairs window in the bedroom. It's just a silhouette. But we obviously know who it is because it has a beard.
Yeah,
Its hair
I feel like it was more obvious than it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, okay, that's obviously McComb, but whatever. We're not supposed to know it's him. Then another goon arrives at the window with Melissa and makes her watch while walking. I presume that's what's going on.
Otherwise, they're just shoving her face in the window.
Right. It's just
for
like
one or the other of them is like torment. You know, it's either like
it is for torment purposes. There's no question about it. So one of the goons tells the other to finish Walker off. Walker wants to know who they are, and the other goon says sleep on it for a while. At which point he shoots him in the chest like 4 times. And because goons,
that's a line that makes no sense.
No, it doesn't
sleep on it.
Right. It was like, well, if you're dead, it's I don't. Anyway, because goons are bad at their job, they don't bother to check to see if he's actually dead.
You could shoot him in the head, right? Twice in the chest,
twice
one in the head.
One's in the head. We all know this now.
Yes.
And they just walk off. So all the goons walk into the house. Walker coughs, and in quintessential Hollywood trope, tears his shirt open because we haven't seen it.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
The audience has to see that bulletproof vest.
The bulletproof vest. He's got the bulletproof vest, so he's fine.
Why don't future guns should penetrate a 1994
They would have
vest?
figured that out, right? Yeah. But we cut to Melissa screaming up inside the house. He gets back up. Walker gets back up. He starts staggering towards the door.
I feel like someone should have noticed, hey, he's not dead.
Let's go back out and just shoot him real quick. At which point the house explodes. Walker's thrown into the clear.
That was a big ass explosion.
I love those explosions, man. That was in Canada. That explosion was in Canada.
Okay.
That whole house was in Canada.
What a house.
It was oh my God. We'll get to that again. There's so much stuff that's being like, is going to pay off later.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great house. Even just the exterior, it's a great house.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so Walker's looking at his burning home and the burning remains of his life as it once was.
Yeah. Before we sign off, I bet there's a few bits that already don't make sense to me.
Just a few?
Especially as the movie unfolds, right? Like they did not do the good thorough job of making sure Walker was dead. Like it came off more like Melissa was the objective.
Yes, that's what it seemed like. Yeah.
Like
it was important for her to die, which is like, we're just going to shoot you in the yard
and leave you.
We want
for
her
dead.
to die. Yeah. In
why
the
would
explosion.
you not? Why would they not drag him into the house?
Right. Exactly. No, it was
like,
so weird.
Then it seems like there was a gas leak.
A gas leak.
Or some shit.
Right.
I don't know. Or shoot him 10 times in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It was just a straight. It came off. I think maybe it was intentional, like confusing, where it seemed like the goal was to kill her, and they were less concerned about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, like, I mean, obviously we know some shit must be going on, right? But presumably the goons all died.
Right.
As well, because they all ran in the house. We didn't see anyone come out.
Right. And this is like, what is the police report? It's like, okay, sir, so you're telling me
that
you were dragged out, shot by the goons, and then we have not found any trace of a body in the house other than your wife's.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like,
do you think he goes
guilty.
to jail behind this?
He's the one who goes to jail for this. He shoots
That'd
himself a couple
movie.
of times in his bulletproof vest. He's done. He's in jail.
That's true. I can't argue with you.
I mean, I'm just saying.
but it's a compelling movie open.
It's a good, I mean, we're done with Act 1. We're gonna move.
We're done with Act 1, and we haven't seen any. Like, we haven't actually seen time travel yet.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. I'm in.
Let's wait for it.
Again, it's just like, it's silly. It's, I mean, there's all these plot holes and everywhere, but if you like on the merits, like that was a really compelling Act 1. We established who all of our characters are. We established what the precedent is. We get a couple of time travel moments, even though we haven't seen time travel happen.
Right. Yeah, we got to see the past. We got to see like the future interact with the past. Absolutely.
So it was a strong Act 1, and I think that's what we're going to call it for tonight.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
For tonight.
Right. Okay.
For this week. Yeah, we'll be back next week with more of our Election Day spectacular. Don't forget to vote, I guess.
Don't forget to vote.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
See you next week. We'll be back.
Time won't let me